All right, today we're diving into a story you might not have heard of, but it's an incredibly powerful one, the Satvandi Revolt. This is all about a community in 19th century India that put everything on the line to fight a global empire, not just for land, but for their very identity. So let's get into it.
This quote from Phant Sahib, one of the leaders of the rebellion, it just says it all, doesn't it? You can feel the intensity there. This wasn't a negotiation. For them, it was a matter of life, death, and freedom.
And that's really the big question here, isn't it? What could possibly make a whole community say, you know what, we're going to take on one of the biggest empires in the world? As we're about to see, it wasn't just one thing. It was a threat to their entire way of life. So, where did it all begin? Well, it all kicks off with one single event back in 1839. This is the spark that lit the fuse on what would become a 6-year rebellion.
So the British East India Company is expanding its power, right? And they make this really bold move. They just straight up depose the region's traditional ruler, a guy named Phant Sahib. This wasn't just some political shuffle. It was a direct takedown of the local authority. And in his place, they don't just leave a vacuum. Nope. They put their own guy in charge. Suddenly, the entire system of who runs the place, who collects taxes, it's all in the hands of outsiders. This shift from having some influence to taking direct control, well, that was the breaking point.
Okay, so to really get why this community was willing to fight so hard, we have to understand what was on the line for them. This wasn't just about a change in management, It was about protecting a world they'd known for generations, a world built on tradition and rights passed down from father to son.
Just look at the difference here. On one side, you've got the traditional way of doing things, local chiefs, tribute collected by their own people, status based on who your family is. And on the other side, the British system. Everything, and I mean everything, is now controlled by them. It's not just a tweak. It's a total demolition of their social structure.
And this brings us to a really important group, the Gadkaris. They weren't just soldiers. They were a hereditary military class. For them, guarding the forts wasn't a job you apply for. It was their birthright, their duty, passed down through their families. Taking that away, that's like taking away their whole identity.
And Phant Sahib just nails it with this quote. He's basically saying, everything we are, everything our ancestors built, it's all being made worthless. You can feel the frustration and the sense of loss. It was an attack on their dignity.
So, faced with losing everything, did the people of the Savant region just roll over? Absolutely not. They organized and they rose up to fight for their rights and for the world they knew. And leading the charge were two key figures, Phant Sahib and Anna Sahib. These guys managed to bring everyone together, the local nobles, the farmers, the people living up in the hills. They created a united front with a common cause. And their strategy was actually pretty clever. They fought on two fronts at the same time. You had the military side of things, with the Gadkaris defending their ancestral forts, their home turf, and then you had civil resistance, where ordinary people just refused to pay taxes to the new British administrator. It was a brilliant way to hit them from both sides.
But, you can't just start a rebellion against the British East India Company and expect them to sit back and watch. The empire was about to strike back. And they were going to do it with overwhelming force.
So what's the first thing the British do? They declare martial law. And that's a huge deal. It basically means all the normal rules are out the window, and the military is in complete control. Things just got very, very serious. Then they bring in the big guns. We're not talking about local troops here. They sent in major reinforcements to storm those forts and completely smash the heart of the rebellion. And for the final blow, the British went for the jugular. They confiscated all local weapons. By doing this, they didn't just end the fighting. They completely dismantled the Gadkaris as a military class. It was a move to make sure nothing like this could ever happen again. So, the fighting's over. What happens next? Let's talk about the aftermath and the legacy this rebellion left behind, because its story doesn't end here. So here's a quick look at the timeline. It all kicks off in 1839 when the chief is removed. Then you have about 5 years of intense resistance, both military and civil. But by 1844, the British launched their massive crackdown, and by 1845, it's all over. The revolt is officially suppressed. So what was the immediate result? Well, on the surface, it was a total loss for the rebels.
The revolt was crushed, local leaders lost everything, and British rule just got stronger. But, and this is a big but, something else survived: the powerful memory of that defiance.
And this is why this seemingly small local revolt is so important in the grand scheme of things. It wasn't just some isolated incident. The Satvandi Revolt was like an early tremor before a massive earthquake. It was one of the first signs of the kind of resistance that would eventually spread all across India.
So, yeah, in military terms, the revolt failed. The rebels lost. But it leaves us with a really powerful question to think about. They took the forts, they took the weapons. But can you ever really erase the memory of a people who stood up and said they'd rather die free than live as servants? Something to think about.